I want to ask you about three things. I'll let you take them in the order you want. The supplemental, and whether or not it's going to go back to the Senate with HR2 attached or just get a discharge petition. The the Bragg case and the meltdown of Fanny Willis's case. In any order you prefer.
Sure. Let's start with the discharge petition. I think that of the two options you mentioned seems to be the most likely. Hakeem Jeffries is looking at that option because there are Republicans who want to support Ukraine aid, who want
Yes.
to need to be doing something policy wise on the border, who don't have the same partisan concerns. But Hakeem Jeffries might actually run into some problems from his own party there because there are progressive Democrats who think that the aid to Israel needs to be conditioned, have human rights conditions and other such things. So, for example, Ilhan Omar has expressed skepticism, and she's surely not the only progressive who might be concerned about the discharge petition. So I'm not sure that there's enough Democrats there who could give Hakeem Jeffries some trouble, but certainly there's sort of all sides on at least the sort of outer, not to say extremes, but the far left and the far right have problems with this bill. Are there enough lawmakers in the middle to make a discharge petition successful? That's unclear right now.
Well, Speaker Johnson did mention sending back something with border control. I have no objection to that play, but if it doesn't get through, go with the discharge petition. Do you have any update? And I would make it just the wall, so it's very clear what the Democrats are refusing to build, the wall. Any idea what the speaker is going to do?
There's a sort of another alternative plan that some Republicans, Congressman Fitzpatrick, for example, are discussing. That would just be a Ukraine, Israel, and Taiwan funding bill with no border provisions in it. That's something that potentially could be more palatable. The border compromise and not being seen as weak on the border is, I think, at this point going to make it toxic to a lot of Republicans. But if it's sent back to the Senate with all of these much stronger border provisions with HR2 attached, it runs into the same problem in the Senate as it's facing in the House right now, where there's just not enough support to get it passed.
And this is where optics come in, Sarah. If you just add the funding and authorization for the immediate construction of 900 miles of wall, that's it. That's all you ask for. And the Senate Democrats say no. Then there's not going to be any doubt about the fall campaign, who's for security and who's not. I've watched Team Biden trying to do everything they can to blame the Republicans for the border. I don't think it's going to work, but you might as well put the knife in and send them the wall, which they will not vote for. I don't think. Correct?
No, I think that if there was the ability to move that through the Senate, it would have been in the original compromise that Senator Lankford helped negotiate. And because the votes weren't there, it wasn't in the original. And I don't think you're going to see it in an amended version.
Well, that's why I just send it over so that they would, I think, can get every Republican to vote for it. And if they don't, we'll know which ones we don't want to support. Okay, Sarah, on to Fanny Willis, who is now like so many before her, not really great on the stand. And what's your conclusion of her persuasiveness?
Well, I think that she seemed to be fighting a separate battle than the one that was potentially that would have best served her. She seemed to be fighting to win in the court of public opinion, to seem like a victim, to sort of paint a narrative instead of to get out of the actual legal trouble that she is in right now. She and her special prosecutor, Nathan Wade, are at this moment accused of lying to the court in an affidavit that they filed to try to clean this mess up earlier this month. That's a really serious accusation made against her, and she did very little to clean up the actual questions that exist, which is whether she did in fact reimburse Nathan Wade for any of the lavish perks that she received after her office started paying him.
Well, don't you split dates that you go? You're married now, but before you got married, didn't you always pay in cash and always split dates in cash and keep $9,000 at home to pay your dates?
Yeah, I just pulled, stacks of bills out from under my mattress during my dating phase to suggest that it was wrong of the prosecutors to ask her for evidence to back up these claims that she's making that don't pass the smell test about reimbursing Special Prosecutor Wade. I'm not sure whether that's going to fly with this judge. This is not like the judges that we've seen in New York or Washington, D.C., who have really gone along with everything prosecutors have wanted. This judge, Scott McAfee, has been a pretty even-handed judge, much like Eileen Cannon in Florida. And so it's possible that the Trump and his co-defendants here could get a fair shake from this judge, and I'm not sure that he's going to buy what Fanny Willis is selling there.
Last question is Alvin Bragg set March 25 for a trial date. Do you know if cameras are allowed in that courtroom? I hope so.
Cameras are not allowed in the Manhattan
Rats.
courtroom, unfortunately. So, and they haven't been allowed in the civil fraud trial either. So, that's what prosecutors have wanted. Jack Smith has been fighting against allowing any sort of live stream of the federal cases in Washington D.C. and Florida. News organizations have been petitioning the court to allow that because of the enormous public interest. Prosecutors don't want people to see what happens in the courtroom, and I think that there should be more questions about why that is.